Hello everyone in cyber world, welcome back to another video. I'm Richard, and once again I'm alone, but that's okay. I'm going to drag her into this video next week one way or another. This is our channel we call Poor Man's DIY. Okay, this week I'm going to show you another project that I've been commissioned to make, and it's going to be based off of this here turtle. It's going to be different. This one here is a version, I don't want to call it a failure. I made it exactly as the customer requested with the color on there. I just didn't think it looked good, so I talked him out of it. I made another one at a different color. I still didn't like that one, so I went with clear. But anyhow, this time what we're going to do is not the same design within, but we're going to put a different logo in it, and we're going to show you how we do this. And this one is actually going to be done without epoxy. So we're going to go ahead and let you see how we do this. Again, idea behind this is to give you an idea of how to make plaques, and maybe you can use this information if you have a business or want to start a business and do similar things. So let's get into it. Okay, before I actually begin on this project, I'm going to do something that I haven't done before. I'm going to show you the non-glamorous side of laser cutting, and if you cut frequently, you're going to have to do this more often than others would, and that is cleaning the laser head. You want to make sure this is clean. Gunk and whatnot builds up as you cut through wood. Particles fly out and they stick on the edges here, and it prevents the laser from coming through nice and clean, and so you get burns and whatnot all over your wood. So I'm just going to show you, just without any real explanations, just show you what I have to do to clean this on a semi-regular basis. Okay, now that we've got a clean laser, we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is go pick out some wood. Okay, let me explain something important here. All the projects that I actually make, I usually do at a better minimum of 2 layers. There's a base layer that is just the outline shape of the particular design, and then on the top I will cut out logos, I'll cut out wording and outline borders and everything else with a second layer. The bottom layer I use a 1/4 inch thick wood, and on the top I use a 1/8 inch. The reason I do this is I could use 1/4 inch for both, and it would it'd be nice. But when I do that, if I have to fill it with epoxy, that means I'm going to have to fill much more epoxy by using a 1/4 inch thick wood on the top parts as well. So I make the top as thin as possible. I also do this for one other reason. I don't want this to be a total of at least a 1/2 inch or more, including epoxy, because it starts getting heavy. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but if we're going to hang this on the wall, I always recommend using as seen on TV, the dual-sided magic tape, and it holds it really well, and it holds a lot of weight. But if you make it too heavy, eventually that could pull off, and I don't want anybody to damage their walls, so we try and keep it as light as possible, and we do that by using the 2 layers and a thin one on top. So now, in this particular case, I'm just going to show you one that I'm working on right now. There are times where I prefer to cut out words out of wood and then glue them on one by one. But if a person wants to have a long farewell, thank you type note on there, it becomes too small and I can't cut from wood. So the only option I have is to actually engrave it on the wood. So this is very important here. Pro tip, if you're going to be engraving first on the base, you need to make sure that you have the wording ready, you engrave and cut out the shape on the same base. If you cut out the base as just this particular shape, and then you finally get the wording, and you want to put it back in and get it lined up for the words to fit exactly where you want to, it's possible, but trying to get that lined up in the exact same spot as you had it when you first cut this out is going to be near impossible. So I recommend not recommend, you're gonna have to engrave it and cut the shape all in one setting rather than doing it 2 separate times. Okay, we have everything loaded. We're going to turn on the computer, load the image that we have set up, and we're going to go ahead and instruct it to start cutting. Okay, it's loud in here. I got a fan going on, and the smoke purifier, air assist, and the machine itself. It's not super loud where I need ear plugs or anything like that, but it's loud enough to kind of disrupt the recording, so bear with me. It's actually going right now. It's going to take a while for this to finish, so instead of sitting around here and waiting, I actually work on other things. Safety is very important, so I would always be nearby whenever your laser's running. I've seen some companies that do have some automatic fire extinguish type things on their laser so that you can let it run, and if something happens, it'll put out the fire. I don't have that, and so I prefer to be safe. I am in the garage the entire time my laser is turned on and running for anything. So what I'm going to be doing now while that's working is I have 3 other projects that I wanted. It just so happens this is the one that I showed you earlier. After pouring epoxy, what happens is the epoxy drips over the edges and it forms drips that solidify, and now I need to get rid of these. They could be sanded down, takes a little bit of time. What I do is something a little different. I use a heat gun, heat it up, and use a chisel to take it off. It comes off quite easily that way, and then I sand it to make it as clean as possible afterwards. Okay, now, to remove this, I need to flip this over. I could hold it in my hand and try and heat and scrape it off. Probably not the easiest thing to do. So what I'm going to do is lay it down on its face. Inevitably, what I learned from the hard way is that there's always going to be scrap pieces, sawdust, and anything else that is sitting on this countertop. If this doesn't cure for a long time, many days, if not weeks, it can still pick up from the table. So you lay it on, you pick it up, and next thing you know, you got embedded pieces of scrap and whatnot in there. So what I have found the best thing for me to do is to use parchment paper. I just lay it on the parchment paper, and nothing sticks to it, and the paper itself doesn't stick. I've tried using some terry cloth or something soft for it, and it turns out that too made indentations from the terry cloth and ruined the epoxy. So parchment paper, heating gun, and chisel. As you can probably see, there's still a lot of dots that are left on here even after removing it, and if I sand it, it still won't go away. The way to get this off completely would be to use a sander and sand it down completely, but in this particular case I'm dealing with plywood. If you sand too much, you go down to the second layer of the plywood, which isn't very pretty either, and if you sand too much down in one area, it doesn't match the other area, which is the first layer of the plywood. So I just figured, well, it's going to be on the backside anyways, so I just need to get it flat and clean enough to remove the excess epoxy, and that's all the goal is. I'm not looking to make it pretty because it's going to be against the wall anyway. Okay, we finished cutting everything out on the 1/8 inch that is going to be on the top layer. The next step, the customer wanted to have the Phoenix that they use for their logo to be painted red. And so we're going to go ahead and paint that, but these pieces are really small. And I've learned that instead of just leaving it on a flat surface and trying to spray paint, they go blowing all over the place. And sometimes it's also tough to get paint all the way around the sides as well. So I use a little cup, some painter's tape, and I take a piece and put it on there. Now when I go to spray paint it on this little dolly here, or Lazy Susan I should say, I'm able to spray around, get all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to be doing all the pieces that are supposed to be red, and then we'll take it outside and we'll go put a layer or two of paint on it. Okay, everything's ready to go. It's actually late at night, as it seems to be all the time when I'm working in the garage. I don't want to take this outside because it's going to be so dark. I have a little paint tent that I have set up there. Too dark to film in, but bright enough for me to actually paint. And I take a flashlight so I make sure I don't miss any spots. So anyhow, I'm sure you'll get the understanding of the idea of how I do this. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done with it. Okay, we don't need to put this all back together, but we did so because this way I make sure that I have all the letters and all the parts. Now we're going to go ahead and apply a stain to it. All right, I let the stain and the paint dry overnight, and I just placed everything into place just as a dry fit, just to make sure that I'm not missing any parts or any letters, and just to see how it looks. I send pictures constantly to my customers to let them see the progress, to make sure they're aware that I'm actually working on projects as promised. And if there's something that we can change, I can make changes as long as it's not too drastic. And so anyhow, this is one of those ones that the customer really seemed to like what's going on with this, but I thought it was a little boring. There's too much space in between here, and here. So I reached out to the customer and asked if there was anything else that they might like that I put in there. I proposed maybe some US flags and a Hawaii flag or something, and they came up with the idea of a couple different organizational logos that they have. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those out at about 45 millimeters in height, and that should match this one here in height. So I'll put those on both sides, and then we'll assemble everything finally after that and start putting a finish on it. So let's get into that. All right, this seems a little plain, so we're going to add a real light stain to it to bring out the color, and we think the contrast will be much better. Okay, we've got the border on, and now we're going to put all these pieces inside here, and the best way to do that is to use the original piece of wood that we cut everything out from. I add a little bit of toothpicks on the bottom here to raise it up, and then just place it in place here. Then all these pieces will fit right in and drop right through, and it'll be a perfect fit. All right, let's do the rest. Confession time. I put in the big pieces because those are the only ones I can see properly. Now I can work on the rest. Okay, after we glued everything together, we just sprayed some polyurethane on top of it. I do at least 3 coats of it to make sure it looks nice. And we thought we finished, showed a picture to to a customer, and she pointed out that I made a mistake. It was just careless. And so here was the first one. It turns out the logo that I had made, the logo has a sword on it, and the sword goes up. I know it goes up. I had everything arranged up. I guess when I flipped it over to put glue on, I did something and didn't pay attention that when I flipped it back to apply, to stick it to this, I did it upside down. I'm glad she caught it. So I have made errors in the past and glued something improperly, but if you catch it early enough, you can use a razor, you cut it off. It may require a little sanding, a little reapplying of stain or whatever, and then it works and you don't have to rebuild the whole thing over. In this particular case, I sanded it off and the stain just didn't match again. I didn't like it. I wasn't going to go any further with it. So we'll call this epic fail. All right. And so here we go. This is what we ended up making with, oh, no, wait a minute. This isn't what we ended up making. This was actually number 2, and this too I considered a fail. This might be really hard to see, but let's see if we can do it. Inside here, I don't know if it's going to be able to come through here or not, and along here, it does not look really good. The reason for this, I did not catch this, but when I glued the borders on here, I obviously must have gotten some glue on the base itself. Normally I wipe it off and then it's fine. You can use a wet cloth to remove wood glue and it comes off just perfectly. It doesn't do any damage, doesn't ruin the stain or anything else like that. I just missed it and it dried clear, so I didn't see it. And I thought everything was fine. I applied the polyurethane, and when you did the polyurethane, you can clearly see that there was something on top of the wood. And if you look at it, I had my wife take a look at this, see if she noticed any difference. She looked at the sign and didn't see anything until I actually pointed it out. But there's no way I'm going to give this to someone and tell them that, yeah, this is my best work. So we're going to call this epic fail number 2. All right. All right, so all of this meant a lot of late night working because I don't want to miss any deadlines. I'm actually not even close to the deadline, but I just want to make sure it gets done right. So after the first failure, it was like working until 3 in the morning or something to redo the second one, only to find out the next day when I applied polyurethane, it was a mess up. So that was a real late night too, but here we go. So this is the final product, and I'm real happy with this one here. The customer did not want any epoxy on this one here. I respect him for that one there. I think the epoxy would really make this pop even more, but I gotta admit, it looks pretty nice. I like the logo here with the phoenix. That's pretty cool. I haven't seen any of those, anything like that in a military plaque before. So I will be presenting that to the customer, I believe today sometime. I'm waiting to hear back from her. So this is just the finish of this particular product. Next week, I'm not sure. I've got a secret project that's going on. I kind of gave a hint out on Instagram. I think some people may already know know I made a purchase, and I've gotten a lot of things from different companies who support our channel, and it's been wonderful. But we went out and did something different. We purchased something, and it's going to keep me pretty busy, I think, for a bit, having to get it ready, set up, and so forth. And I might make a video out of that one as well. I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to make the next video, but in between I do have other projects, other customers that I need to take care of, and they're different, unique projects, so I might show them as well. And so, until we meet again, bye-bye.